Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. Sarah stood in the cramped kitchen of their modest apartment, the aroma of fresh coffee mingling with a faint scent of printer ink from the living room. She stirred a pot of simmering pasta sauce, her hands moving with practiced ease, while her mind juggled a mental checklist: pay the electricity bill, finish the freelance graphic design project, and prep Michael's presentation slides for tomorrow's investor meeting. At 29, Sarah was the invisible scaffolding of their life, holding everything together while Michael chased his dream of building a tech startup. The living room was a chaotic blend of ambition and clutter, laptops, cables, and stacks of paper strewn across a second-hand coffee table. Michael, 31, hunched over his computer, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he typed furiously. His startup, CodeZap, was on the cusp of something big, a revolutionary app for streamlining small business operations. Sarah believed in it, in him, with a fervor that bordered on sacred. "Michael, dinner's almost ready," she called, wiping her hands on a faded apron. "Did you get the email from that angel investor?" He didn't look up. "Yeah, they're interested. Meetings tomorrow. Can you tweak the slides? The visuals need to pop more." Sarah nodded, already mentally rearranging her evening. She'd been up since 5 a.m., working her part-time job at a local cafe before diving into freelance work to cover their bills. Michael's startup hadn't turned a profit yet, and every spare dollar went into it. Her own dreams, finishing her degree in business, maybe starting her own design firm, were tucked away like old photographs, gathering dust in the back of her mind. She slid a plate of spaghetti in front of him, and he finally glanced up, offering a distracted smile. "You're a lifesaver, Sarah." Her heart warmed at the words, a reminder of why she poured so much into him. They'd met in college, two dreamers with big plans. Back then, Michael had been all charm and promises, scribbling app ideas on napkins and swearing they'd build an empire together. She'd believed every word. "Eat before it gets cold," she teased, sitting across from him with her own plate. "So, tell me about this investor. What's the vibe?" Michael chewed thoughtfully, his eyes alight with that spark she loved. "They're big players, Sarah. If we nail this, it's seed funding, maybe even Series A. We're talking real money." She leaned forward, her exhaustion fading in the glow of his enthusiasm. "That's huge. What do you need from me?" "Just keep doing what you do," he said, reaching for her hand. "I couldn't do this without you." The words were simple, but they anchored her. She squeezed his hand back, ignoring the nagging ache in her shoulders. This was their dream, their future. She'd keep the ship afloat until Michael's vision came to life. 6 months later, CodeZap was no longer a pipe dream. The investor meeting had gone better than expected, securing enough funding to hire a small team and move into a sleek downtown office. Michael was a changed man, new suits, a sharper haircut, and a confidence that bordered on swagger. Sarah was thrilled for him, but the apartment felt emptier now. He was rarely home, and when he was, his phone was a constant companion, buzzing with notifications. Sarah stood at the sink, washing dishes alone, the clink of plates filling the silence. She glanced at the clock. 9:47 p.m. Michael had promised to be home by 7. She dried her hands and checked her phone, hoping for a text. Nothing. When he finally walked in at 10:30, he was all energy, loosening his tie as he dropped his briefcase by the door. "Sorry, babe, got held up at the office. Chloe had some ideas for the new marketing campaign, and we lost track of time." Sarah's stomach tightened at the name. Chloe, the new marketing consultant, had been mentioned more often lately. "Chloe, huh? She's keeping you busy," Sarah said, aiming for casual but hearing the edge in her voice. Michael didn't notice. "Yeah, she's brilliant. Got this whole influencer strategy mapped out. It's gonna put us on the map." He grabbed a beer from the fridge, oblivious to her frown. Sarah forced a smile. "That's great. Just, maybe let me know if you're gonna be late. I made lasagna." He winced, finally looking at her. "Shit, I forgot. I ate with the team. Chloe found this new sushi place, Insane Toro Roll." The casual mention of dinner with Chloe stung, but Sarah swallowed it. She didn't want to be the nagging wife, the one who couldn't handle his success. "No worries," she said, turning back to the sink. I'll pack it up for lunch. Later, in bed, Michael scrolled through his phone, the blue light casting shadows on his face. Sarah lay beside him, staring at the ceiling. You okay? She asked softly. He glanced over, surprised. Yeah, why? You just seem different. Busier. I miss you. He set the phone down, rolling to face her. Babe, this is it. We're so close to making it big. I'm doing this for us. She nodded, wanting to believe him. But as he drifted to sleep, his phone buzzed again, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping away. The unease grew like a weed, subtle but persistent. Sarah noticed the small things. Michael's phone was now password protected, a new habit he brushed off as company security. He started dressing sharper, even on weekends, and his cologne lingered in the apartment long after he left. Chloe's name peppered his conversations. Chloe's pitch, Chloe's connections, Chloe's game-changing ideas. One rainy afternoon, Sarah was at Michael's desk, updating his investor deck on his laptop. He'd left it open, a rare lapse. As she saved her work, a notification popped up, a message from Chloe. Last night was fun. Same time tomorrow. Sarah's heart thudded. She clicked, unable to stop herself. The chat was a mix of work talk and something else, flirty emojis, vague references to after hours. Her hands shook as she scrolled, each message a tiny cut. She closed the laptop, her breath shallow. That evening, she met her best friend, Lisa, at a cozy coffee shop. Rain streaked the windows as Sarah spilled everything, her voice low. I don't know what to do, Lisa. It's not proof, but it feels wrong. Lisa sipped her latte, her brow furrowed. Okay, let's not jump to conclusions. He's under a lot of stress, right? Maybe it's just work stuff getting flirty. People do that. Sarah stared at her mug. But he's different. He's not here, even when he's here. And Chloe, he talks about her like she's the second coming. Lisa reached for her hand. You need to talk to him. Lay it out. If he's innocent, he'll clear it up. If not, she trailed off, her eyes soft with concern. Sarah nodded, but dread pooled in her stomach. She wanted to trust Michael, to believe in the man who'd once promised her the world. But the whispers of betrayal were growing louder, and she wasn't sure she could ignore them much longer. Sarah waited 3 days to gather her courage, each one heavier than the last. She chose a quiet Sunday evening, the apartment lit by soft lamplight. Michael was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through his phone, when she sat across from him, her hands clasped tightly. Michael, we need to talk, she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. He looked up, eyebrows raised. What's up? She took a deep breath. I saw a message from Chloe on your laptop. It didn't sound like just work. And you've been so distant lately. Are you? Her voice cracked. Are you having an affair? Michael's face hardened, his phone dropping to his lap. Are you serious? You're snooping through my stuff now. I wasn't snooping. You left it open. And the message said, last night was fun. What am I supposed to think? He leaned forward, his voice sharp. You're supposed to trust me, Sarah. Chloe's a colleague. We work late, we joke around. That's it. You're blowing this out of proportion. She searched his face, desperate for sincerity. Then why the password? Why are you never home? You're always with her, Michael. He threw his hands up, exasperated. Because I'm building a company. You think I want to be working 80-hour weeks? I'm doing this for us, and you're turning it into some soap opera. You're being paranoid. The word hit like a slap. Paranoid. She felt the ground shift beneath her, doubt creeping in. Was she overreacting? I'm not trying to accuse you, she said, softer now. I feel like I'm losing you. Michael's expression softened, but it felt calculated. He stood, crossing to her and pulling her into a hug. You're not losing me. I'm right here. But I need you to trust me, okay? This is a critical time for code zap. She nodded against his chest, wanting to believe him. But as he released her and picked up his phone again, the unease lingered, a quiet warning she couldn't shake. The truth came on a Tuesday evening, uninvited and brutal. Sarah had finished a double shift at the cafe, her feet aching as she walked home. She decided to treat herself to dinner at La Belle Étoile, a high-end restaurant she and Michael used to dream of affording. With a small bonus from her freelance work, she thought, why not? She was seated at a corner table, sipping water, when she saw them. Michael and Chloe, across the room, tucked into a candlelit booth. His hand rested on hers, their laughter intimate, oblivious to the world. Chloe leaned in, her lips brushing his ear, and Michael grinned in a way Sarah hadn't seen in months. Her fork clattered to the plate. The room spun, the chatter around her fading to a dull roar. She wanted to scream, to storm over and demand answers, but her body wouldn't move. Instead, she watched, frozen, as Chloe fed Michael a bite of dessert, their eyes locked in a way that left no room for doubt. Sarah slipped out before they saw her, the night air cold against her tear-streaked face. She walked home, each step heavier than the last, the image of them burned into her mind. She'd given everything, her time, her dreams, her heart, and it hadn't been enough. When Michael came home that night, she was waiting, her suitcase half-packed by the door. "I saw you," she said, her voice low and steady. "At La Belle Étoile. With Chloe." His face paled, but only for a moment. Then the mask was back, his jaw tight. "So you're spying on me now?" "Don't," she snapped, her voice rising. "Don't you dare turn this on me. I saw you, Michael. You're not even sorry, are you?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, Sarah, I didn't want it to happen like this. But yeah, Chloe and it's real. I was going to tell you." Her laugh was bitter, hollow. "Real? You think that's real? She's using you, Michael. And you threw away everything we built for her." He shrugged, his indifference a knife to her heart. "Maybe it's better this way. You deserve someone who can give you whatever it is you want. I've got divorce papers ready. Let's just make this clean." Sarah stared at him, the man she'd loved for years now a stranger. She nodded, too broken to argue. "Fine. But you'll regret this." As she walked away, suitcase in hand, she felt the weight of her world collapsing, but also the faint stir of something new. Anger. Resolve. She wasn't done yet. Sarah stood in the dim light of their apartment, her suitcase half-packed by the door, the air thick with the weight of finality. Michael's words still echoed in her mind. "I was going to tell you." No remorse, no apology, just a cold, calculated exit from their marriage. He sat on the couch now, flipping through divorce papers as if they were a routine contract, his face unreadable. "Sign here," he said, sliding the documents across the coffee table. "It's straightforward. Clean split. You keep your stuff, I keep the business." Sarah's hands trembled as she picked up the pen. The apartment, once a haven of shared dreams, felt like a tomb. "That's it?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. 10 years, and you're done? Just like that?" Michael leaned back, his jaw tight. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Sarah. We're not the same people anymore. I've outgrown this." His eyes flicked to her, then away, as if she were an inconvenience. "Outgrown me," she corrected, her voice cracking. "Say it, Michael. You owe me that much." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Fine. I need someone who gets this world I'm in now. Chloe does. She's part of it, meetings, galas, the whole scene. You're still here in this." He gestured vaguely at the cluttered apartment, the worn furniture, her faded apron hanging on the wall. Sarah laughed, a brittle sound. This is what I built for you. Every late night, every bill I paid, every slide I designed. You'd be nowhere without this." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Don't kid yourself. Codezap's my vision. You were just support staff." The words landed like a punch, stealing her breath. She signed the papers in silence, her signature sharp and final. "You'll regret this," she said, standing. "Not today, maybe not tomorrow. But you will." He didn't respond, already typing on his phone. As Sarah dragged her suitcase out the door, the click of the lock behind her felt like the end of a chapter she'd never wanted to close. But in the quiet of the hallway, a spark of defiance flickered. She wasn't broken yet. Sarah's new reality was a shoebox apartment in a run-down part of town, the kind of place where the walls were thin and the radiator hissed like an angry cat. The divorce had left her with nothing but a few $1,000s in savings, most of which went to the deposit and first month's rent. She lay on a second-hand mattress, staring at water stains on the ceiling, the weight of her new life pressing down. Her days blurred into a grind of survival. She picked up extra shifts at the cafe, her hands raw from scrubbing counters, her smile a mask for impatient customers. At night, she freelanced, her laptop screen casting a blue glow as she designed logos for small businesses. Every dollar was accounted for: rent, utilities, groceries. There was no room for dreams. One evening, exhausted, she sat with Lisa at a dive bar, nursing a cheap beer. "I don't know how to do this," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above the jukebox's hum. "I gave him everything, Lisa. And now I'm starting from nothing." Lisa leaned forward, her eyes fierce. "You're not nothing. You're Sarah. You built his empire, and you can build your own. Start small. Take a course, get a better job. You're tougher than this." Sarah twirled her glass, skeptical. "With what money? I can barely afford this beer." "Online courses," Lisa pressed. "Some are free. You've got skills, Sarah. You just need to polish them." The idea lingered, a tiny seed in the wreckage of her life. That night, alone in her apartment, Sarah scrolled through free business courses on her laptop. She enrolled in one, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. It was a start, a fragile thread pulling her toward something new. 6 months later, Sarah was a different woman, not whole, but healing. The online courses had ignited a spark she'd forgotten she had. She devoured lessons on marketing, finance, and entrepreneurship, staying up late to scribble notes. Her freelance work grew, landing her a steady client who paid enough to quit the cafe. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of pride. She moved to a slightly better apartment, one with actual sunlight and a desk for her work. She started painting again, a hobby she'd abandoned in college, filling her walls with vibrant abstracts. Each brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. One day, while working on a client's branding project, she got an email from a tech conference looking for volunteers. The gig offered networking opportunities and a chance to learn from industry leaders. Sarah hesitated. Tech was Michael's world, and the thought of crossing paths with him twisted her stomach. But Lisa's voice echoed in her head, "You're tougher than this." At the conference, Sarah manned a registration booth, her smile genuine as she chatted with attendees. A man approached, his suit impeccable but his demeanor warm. "You're Sarah, right? I'm Daniel Sterling, keynote speaker. Your email about the volunteer schedule was the most organized thing I've seen all week." Sarah blushed, caught off guard. "Just doing my job, Mr. Sterling." "Daniel," he corrected, his eyes crinkling. "You ever think about working in tech? You've got a knack for this." She laughed, brushing it off. "I'm just a freelancer. Tech's not really my world." He raised an eyebrow. "Maybe it should be. Let's talk." That conversation led to a coffee meeting, then an offer, a junior strategist position at Sterling Innovations, Daniel's company. The salary was triple what she made freelancing. Sarah stared at the contract, her heart racing. This was her chance to rebuild, to step out of Michael's shadow. Michael's life, on the surface, was a glossy success story. CodeZap was thriving, with a sleek office and a growing team. He and Chloe were the power couple of the tech scene, photographed at galas, their names in industry blogs. But beneath the shine, cracks were forming. Chloe was a whirlwind, charming in public, demanding in private. She pushed for designer bags, exotic trips, and a penthouse apartment Michael couldn't yet afford. "You're the CEO, she'd purr, her nails trailing his arm. "Act like it." One night, over dinner at their favorite rooftop bar, Michael tried to set boundaries. "Chloe, we need to slow down on the spending. The company's growing, but cash flows tight." She rolled her eyes, sipping her martini. "Don't bore me with numbers, Michael. You promised me a certain life. Deliver." He bristled, but her smile disarmed him, as it always did. Still, doubts crept in. She was rarely around when he needed real support, always chasing the next event or connection. At a recent pitch meeting, she'd flirted openly with an investor, laughing too loudly at his jokes. Michael had brushed it off, but it gnawed at him. Late at night, alone in his office, he scrolled through LinkedIn and saw Sarah's updated profile, Junior Strategist, Sterling Innovations. A photo showed her at a conference, confident and radiant. His chest tightened. He typed a message, "Hey, heard you're doing great. Coffee sometime." Then deleted it. She was moving on, and he was stuck with a woman who felt like a mirage. Sarah's first day at Sterling Innovations was a whirlwind of nerves and excitement. The office was a sleek wonderland of glass and tech, a far cry from Michael's cramped startup space. Her desk overlooked the city, and her team was welcoming, if intimidatingly sharp. Daniel checked in often, his feedback tough but fair. One afternoon, he called her into his office. "Sarah, your analysis on the Q2 campaign was spot on. You've got an instinct for this. Ever think about leading a project?" She blinked, stunned. "Me? I'm barely settled in." He leaned back, smiling. "You're a quick study. I don't hand out chances lightly, but I see potential. Say yes, and I'll mentor you." She said yes, her heart pounding. Over the next few months, Sarah threw herself into the work, her confidence growing with each success. Daniel was a demanding mentor but kind, always pushing her to think bigger. Their late-night strategy sessions turned into easy conversations about life, ambition, and second chances. One evening, over takeout in the empty office, Daniel set down his chopsticks. "You're different, Sarah. Most people here are chasing status. You're chasing meaning. Where does that come from?" She hesitated, then shared a piece of her story. Michael, the divorce, her struggle to rebuild. Daniel listened, his eyes steady. "Sounds like you're stronger than you know," he said. "Whoever let you go was a fool." Sarah smiled, a warmth spreading through her. For the first time, she felt seen, not as a wife or a support system, but as herself. Sarah's office at Sterling Innovations was a far cry from the cramped desk she'd once shared with Michael's startup chaos. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, and her new role as a junior strategist felt like a lifeline. Under Daniel Sterling's mentorship, she was thriving, her days filled with data analysis, client pitches, and strategy sessions that stretched late into the evening. Daniel's guidance was exacting but kind, his confidence in her a steady anchor. One Thursday, as they reviewed a campaign proposal in his sleek office, Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Sarah, your pivot on the branding angle was bold. Clients loved it. Where'd you learn to think like that?" She hesitated, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Honestly, years of fixing Michael's half-baked ideas. I was his invisible editor, making sure his pitches didn't crash and burn." Daniel's eyes softened, but his tone stayed sharp. "You're not invisible here. You're leading. Own it." The words hit deep, stirring a pride she hadn't felt in years. Over weeks, their professional dynamic deepened. Late-night meetings over coffee turned into debates about innovation, then personal stories. One evening, as they packed up, Daniel paused. "You ever think about where you'd be if you hadn't taken this job?" Sarah smiled, bittersweet. "Probably still scraping by, wondering where I went wrong. You gave me a chance to rebuild." He shook his head. "You rebuilt yourself. I just opened the door." Their eyes met, a quiet understanding passing between them. Sarah felt a warmth she hadn't known since her early days with Michael, but this was different, grounded, mutual. As she left his office, her step was lighter, her future brighter. Michael's life was a polished facade, but the cracks were widening. CodeZap's success kept him in the spotlight, but Chloe's demands were relentless. New dresses, VIP events, a constant need for more. At a tech mixer, he overheard whispers about Sarah's rise at Sterling Innovations. "She's killing it," a colleague said. "Sterling's got a gem." Michael scrolled through Sarah's LinkedIn later, her profile photo radiating confidence. She'd traded her old ponytail for a sleek bob, her smile no longer tentative. His stomach twisted with something like regret. On impulse, he sent her a text, "Heard you're doing big things. Proud of you. Coffee." Sarah's reply came hours later, polite but firm, "Thanks, but I'm good. Take care." The dismissal stung more than he expected. He stared at his phone, Chloe's laughter from the next room grating on his nerves. He'd chosen this life, but it felt like a cage. At a bar that night, he vented to a colleague, Tom. "She's moved on, man," Michael said, swirling his whiskey. "I thought she'd, I don't know, need me." Tom raised an eyebrow. "You left her for Chloe. What did you expect? Sarah's a catch." "You fumbled." Michael bristled but said nothing. Tom's words echoed in his head, a nagging truth he wasn't ready to face. Sarah was no longer his shadow, she was outshining him. Chloe's charm was a weapon, and Michael was starting to see its edge. She was always on her phone, texting someone she wouldn't name, her excuses vague. "Just networking," she'd say, her smile too perfect. But Michael noticed her lingering glances at other men, investors, competitors, anyone with deeper pockets. One night, at a rooftop gala, Chloe was in her element, flitting between power players. Michael watched her lean too close to a rival CEO, laughing at his jokes, her hand grazing his arm. When he confronted her later, her eyes flashed. "What's your problem, Michael?" "I'm helping your brand." "You're welcome." "Helping," he snapped. "You're flirting with my competition." She smirked, unapologetic. "Grow up. This is how the game's played. You want to win, you need me." He felt the ground shift. Chloe wasn't his partner, she was an opportunist, using his success as a stepping stone. Later, he found a text on her phone from the rival CEO. "Dinner tomorrow?" "Just us." His blood boiled, but he said nothing, his pride too bruised to admit he'd been played. The next day, he overheard office gossip. Chloe had been spotted at a private club with the same CEO. The betrayal was clear, but Michael clung to the illusion of control, unwilling to face how far he'd fallen. The tech world was abuzz with the annual Innovation Summit, a glitzy event where deals were made and egos clashed. Michael attended with Chloe, hoping to secure a new investor. He wore his best suit, but his confidence was fraying. Chloe's latest demands had drained his savings, and CodeZap's growth was stalling. Midway through the evening, Chloe took the stage to present a joint marketing pitch. Her charm was electric, but her words veered off script. "CodeZap's vision is bold," she said, pausing for effect, "but it's nothing without the right connections. Like my dear friend, Victor Lang." She gestured to the rival CEO, who grinned from the front row. The crowd murmured, sensing the slight. Michael's face burned as Chloe continued, praising Victor's innovative leadership while barely mentioning CodeZap. Then, in a calculated move, she added, "Victor and I have been working closely, very closely, on some exciting ventures." The room erupted in whispers. Michael stood frozen, the truth dawning. Chloe was publicly aligning herself with Victor, humiliating him in front of their peers. He grabbed her arm as she stepped off stage. "What the hell was that?" She yanked free, her eyes cold. "I'm securing my future, Michael." "You're not it." He watched her saunter to Victor's side, her laughter cutting through the crowd. Investors turned away, his reputation crumbling. For the first time, Michael felt the weight of his choices, not just losing Sarah, but betting on a woman who'd played him for a fool. Weeks later, Michael was desperate to salvage his image. CodeZap stock was dipping, and investors were spooked by the summit fallout. He took Chloe to La Belle Étoile, the same upscale restaurant where Sarah had caught them months ago, hoping a public appearance would signal stability. Chloe agreed, but her presence felt like a performance, her smile sharp as ever. Across the room, Sarah sat with Daniel, celebrating a major deal that had cemented her as Sterling Innovation's rising star. She wore a tailored dress, her confidence radiant, a far cry from the broken woman Michael had left. Daniel raised a glass, his voice warm. "To you, Sarah. This deal's yours. You're unstoppable." She laughed, blushing. "I had a good teacher." Michael spotted them, his stomach lurching. Sarah looked happy, truly happy, in a way he hadn't seen in years. Chloe noticed his distraction and followed his gaze. "Is that your ex?" she asked, her tone mocking. "She's upgraded." Before Michael could respond, the room shifted. Daniel stood, his voice carrying just enough to draw eyes. "Sarah, you've changed my life," he said, pulling a velvet box from his pocket. He dropped to one knee, the diamond ring glinting under the chandeliers. "Will you marry me?" Sarah's eyes widened, tears brimming as she nodded. "Yes. Yes, Daniel." The restaurant erupted in applause, but Michael's world went silent. He watched Sarah's joy, her hand in Daniel's, and felt the full weight of his loss. Chloe's smirk faded, her own game suddenly small in the face of Sarah's triumph. The chandeliers of La Belle Étoile cast a golden glow over the restaurant, amplifying the electric moment as Daniel Sterling knelt before Sarah, the diamond ring in his hand sparkling like a captured star. Sarah's breath caught, her eyes locked on his, the weight of her past dissolving in the warmth of his gaze. "Sarah, you've changed my life," Daniel said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "You're brilliant, resilient, and the most incredible woman I've ever known. Will you marry me?" Across the room, Michael sat frozen, his fork suspended mid-air, Chloe's manicured nails tapping impatiently beside him. The applause from nearby tables felt like a tidal wave, drowning him in the reality of Sarah's triumph. Her radiant smile, the way she nodded through tears, "Yes, Daniel, yes," was a scene he couldn't unsee. It was everything he'd once promised her, now given by another man. Chloe leaned in, her voice a venomous whisper. "Well, isn't that sweet? Your ex is about to be Mrs. Millionaire." Her smirk was sharp, but Michael barely registered it, his eyes fixed on Sarah as Daniel slid the ring onto her finger. The room seemed to shrink, the clink of glasses and murmurs fading to a dull roar in his ears. Sarah, oblivious to Michael's stare, stood and wrapped her arms around Daniel, their embrace a quiet vow. For her, this moment was a pinnacle, not just of love, but of reclaiming herself. She'd rebuilt from nothing, and now she stood in a world she'd earned, beside a man who saw her worth. Michael's throat tightened. He wanted to look away, to pretend this wasn't happening, but he couldn't. The woman he'd discarded was now the center of the room, her happiness a mirror to his own unraveling life. As the applause for Sarah and Daniel faded, Chloe's composure cracked. She'd come to La Belle Étoile to play the role of Michael's glamorous partner, but Sarah's moment had stolen the spotlight. Her eyes darted across the room, calculating, and then she stood, her chair scraping loudly. "I need air," she announced, her tone clipped, leaving Michael alone at their table. He should have let her go, but desperation drove him to follow. Outside, under the restaurant's awning, Chloe lit a cigarette, her movements sharp. "You're pathetic," she spat, exhaling smoke. "Sitting there, mooning over your ex while she's getting engaged to a mogul. You're a sinking ship, Michael." He clenched his fists, his voice low. "You don't get to talk to me like that. Not after you humiliated me at the summit with Victor." Chloe laughed, cold and cutting. "Oh, please. Victor's a better bet than you'll ever be. I've been playing you from the start, and you were too dumb to see it." She stepped closer, her eyes glinting. "I'm done here. Good luck with your little app." She turned, her heels clicking as she walked toward a waiting car. Victor's car, Michael realized, the sleek black sedan a symbol of his failure. The restaurant's windows reflected Sarah and Daniel, still basking in their moment, as Chloe's parting words echoed, "You're nothing without me." Inside, Sarah remained untouched by the drama. She sipped champagne with Daniel, her laughter soft, her heart full. Chloe's exit was a footnote, irrelevant to the new chapter she was writing. Michael returned to his table alone, the restaurant's warmth now suffocating. The bill arrived, a painful reminder of his strained finances, and he paid it with a card he knew was close to maxed out. The next morning, the fallout from the summit and Chloe's betrayal hit hard. Social media buzzed with clips of her speech, praising Victor while sidelining CodeZap. Investors pulled out, citing instability in leadership. A key client canceled a contract, and Michael's board scheduled an emergency meeting. In his office, surrounded by the sleek trappings of his success, Michael felt the walls closing in. He scrolled through X, where posts mocked his public humiliation. CodeZap CEO fumbles his shot, loses mistress to rival. Another linked to a glowing article about Sarah's role in Sterling Innovation's latest deal, her name trending alongside Daniel's. The contrast was brutal. He called Tom, his colleague, desperate for advice. "I'm screwed, man," Michael admitted, his voice hoarse. "Chloe's gone, the board circling, and Sarah, she's untouchable now." Tom didn't sugarcoat it. "You made your bed, Mike. You threw away a woman who had your back for someone who used you. Focus on saving your company, not chasing ghosts." But focus eluded him. Meetings blurred into arguments, his team questioning his judgment. By week's end, the board voted to reduce his role, appointing a co-CEO to stabilize CodeZap. Michael, once the visionary, was now a liability, his empire crumbling under the weight of his choices. Sarah's wedding to Daniel was a quiet affair, held in a sunlit vineyard outside the city. She wore a simple ivory dress, her hair loose, her smile unguarded. Daniel, in a tailored suit, looked at her like she was the only person in the world. Their vows were heartfelt, promising partnership and respect, a stark contrast to the empty promises of her past. After the ceremony, Sarah stood with Lisa, sipping sparkling wine as the golden hour bathed the vines. "I never thought I'd get here," Sarah said, her voice soft. "After Michael, I thought I was done with love." Lisa squeezed her hand. "You weren't done. You just needed someone who sees you. Daniel's the real deal." Sarah glanced at Daniel, laughing with guests, his warmth infectious. Her new role at Sterling Innovations had grown, too. She was now a senior strategist, leading campaigns that drew industry praise. She'd launched a mentorship program for women in tech, channeling her pain into purpose. Her life was full, not just of love, but of meaning. At night, in their new home, Sarah and Daniel would talk for hours, planning trips, brainstorming business ideas, or simply sitting in comfortable silence. She'd found a partner who valued her mind as much as her heart, and the weight of her past felt lighter with each passing day. 2 years later, Michael sat in a dimly lit cafe, a shadow of his former self. CodeZap had been acquired at a fraction of its peak value, and he'd taken a junior role at a mid-tier firm, his name no longer a draw. Scrolling through X, he stumbled on a post about Sarah and Daniel's latest venture, a tech-focused philanthropy fund aiding underserved communities. The attached photo showed Sarah, confident and poised, speaking at a gala, Daniel at her side. Michael clicked through to an article, the headline glowing, "Power Couple Redefines Tech Philanthropy." Sarah's quotes were sharp, her vision clear, and the comments praised her as a trailblazer. Michael's chest ached, not with anger, but with acceptance. He'd lost her, not just to Daniel, but to the life she'd built without him. He thought back to their early days, the napkin sketches and late-night dreams. He'd been so sure he was the star, but Sarah had been the foundation. His arrogance, his betrayal, had cost him everything. Closing his laptop, he sipped his cold coffee, the bitterness fitting. He'd learned too late what Sarah always knew. Trust and loyalty were worth more than ambition. Sarah, meanwhile, stood on a balcony overlooking the city, Daniel's arm around her. They were planning their next initiative, their laughter mingling with the night air. She'd come full circle, from heartbreak to a life richer than she'd ever imagined. The past was a lesson, not a chain, and she was free. The end.